What about those like 3, 2, 1 countdowns? We just go live when we're on YouTube. I was just saying they have those things where it's like 3, 2, 1. That would have been pretty good. So what is today? Today is a Tuesday. That's when we decided that we were going to for sure have these lives going. I always enjoy doing these, having people in the chat. If you are joining us and coming in, let me know where you're from. Also, if you've got questions, we are doing a fatherhood Q&A. Any questions you have, if I can answer them, I will. If I can't, I won't. But I will let you know maybe somebody else who can answer it. I'm not going to leave you hanging. So it always takes a little bit to let people come in and do that on the lives. But do we have a game today? I think we have a game. If you stick around a little bit longer, we've got a game. We're not going to start it yet, but we've got a game to play. What else we got? I think that's it. We're hoping. Usually these questions that people have are really good. So if you've got a question that you want answered, throw it in the chat, and I'd be happy to answer it. Just recorded, or actually just created, more scripted. We're going to be recording shortly. A couple new videos, one for soon-to-be dads, one to how to help her and support her while she's pregnant. And then another one is about mistakes that new dads make. And so those are coming up soon. Hopefully, I think we're recording some stuff tomorrow, and that'll be good. And so you'll see new stuff on the channel. What else? What do you guys think about this new video? We are using a little bit different technology, again, exploring it and testing it, and seeing how that works. Also, if you want to support the channel, daduniversity.com/support, and you can become a member, pay what feels good, whatever amount that you would want to pay, and you get to have access to the courses, to all the videos, to the live or to the discussion boards. And then also, if you want to just do a one-time member donation, you can do that too. We certainly welcome that, but you might as well get something for it on your side, which is a lot of the course material and the videos, etc. So we'll try to think of a topic. Maybe that'll spawn some questions, because although we see there's people online and you guys are just watching, you guys don't have any questions. So, it's hard for me to interact if I don't have questions. So I'll have to just come up with something. This is what happens during a live. Nobody asks any questions. You don't have... So let's see if we can come up with a topic. Anybody in the audience have a topic you want to talk about? Let's see. What is new and exciting that's going on related to parenting?
Barstool babies.
No, I don't think that's appropriate. I heard something from the gallery over there, and I don't know that we can talk about that. Hey, Jordan. Good to see you. Glad taking the spill into the chat. From Detroit, father of 2 girls. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. What ages are they? Give us some context. If you have questions, throw it in the chat. Somebody had asked me, actually, this is a good question, is what's the difference of, raising a boy versus a girl, at least in the early stages? And my answer was there really was no difference. I mean, as far as, I think that there is some difference of how we treat them, but as far as like raising the children, there really wasn't different. The only thing I said was, when they're babies, is you make sure on the girl that for sure you're wiping from front to back. That's really the only thing. As far as participation in things and affection and the way we treat them and everything else, it was, it was, the attempt was to be very similar. If you guys have something different than that, and separating the genders in some way and treating them in a different way. Now, I will say that studies have shown that parents, especially fathers, treat their daughters differently than they do their sons. They're typically more rough with their sons and versus more verbal with their daughters. There are some differences, but these are differences of just innately dads have a tendency to treat their kids that way. So whether, there's no reason for it other than just, men thinking that this is how they should treat their daughter and this is how they should treat their son. So Jordan, 5 and 8-year-old daughter, good to see you here. And so what we're thinking of doing, and if it works, is kind of is making this a little bit more regular, which is doing the Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific to see if that works and if that time slot works. I think in the olden days, a couple of years ago, I did similar, but maybe did like an hour or so later, and that seemed to work for people. We're just trying to bring it a little bit earlier now for our own selfish schedules, as we would end up being here pretty late. So, because I have a life too, or at least I pretend that I have one, or I want to have one, and so being at the office all night, I then don't get to see my family either. But if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Again, if you want to support Dad University, daduniversity.com/support, and you can either become a member, get access to all of our stuff, and you can pay whatever feels good. After the last one, actually, we had quite a few viewers, and we got some signups after that. It was pretty awesome that people, I think, had watched the live and then went on to become members, and so that's pretty cool. And then also you could do one-time support, which is just a donation. And if you have the desire to just do a one-time thing and don't want any obligation to try to learn anything, then you can do that too. We're not going to argue. What it does is it really helps us, create the show, continue on making videos, courses, and doing all of this stuff. We have a new thing here that it shows exactly what the reason is. Yeah. That's good work.
You were right when you were saying it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. See? Hopefully. Wow, that's cool. So that's new. I didn't get to see that before. So thank you, Luke. Appreciate that. Jordan had asked, I hate when I have to yell or when I get a little frustrated with my girls. I try to explain to them, hey, Daddy doesn't want to yell, but you guys are not listening. Please help. Yeah. Well, there's a couple things going on here, and I suffer with this too. And so I did a lot of work related to this, and it's not that I still don't get frustrated. But I think there's a couple reasons why we get really frustrated in those situations, and a couple of things. One, we take it personally. The idea that our children aren't listening to us, we take it very personally. And there's there's underlying psychology of that, of whether, we take it personally because we don't think that we're maybe doing it right. There's a little bit of, or we feel like we should be doing a better job. Or, it's just very frustrating when you're not being listened to. It's the same thing for your spouse or people at work or whatever. If you were talking and nobody's listening to you, it feels kind of crappy. And so we get upset at our children for that. I think, I felt like that a lot, where it's like I felt like I had to raise my voice in order to be heard. But what I came to realize is that, these brains of these children, they're not out to get us. They're not trying to make our lives miserable. They're not trying to, defy us per se on purpose. It's like they're really just trying to figure out what's going on. And a lot of times they forget. A lot of times, and truthfully, if like we're yelling or whining or complaining all the time, they're just drowning it out because they don't want to hear it. So I think sometimes it's understanding your children a little better, of the timing too. I know at certain times I ask my children to do something, they're just not listening. So there's been things that have helped. It's documentation, like actually writing lists down, or a board where they can actually see the things that they're supposed to do, if that's the kind of listening you're talking about. So there's techniques and tools that you can use to try to improve the way that they are listening. And so the other thing too is it depends on the situations, like them not listening to like you doing instructions, like you want them to clean up or something like that. There's different techniques to try to improve that. I think all in all, there's also, if you remember being a kid, like you hated cleaning up. You just didn't like listening to your parents. Eventually you did, because they were, yelling, or because they, just got upset, and you're like, okay, Dad's serious now I have to listen. But I'd also put it on the child and say, have like a real conversation and say, listen, when I ask you to do something, it is important, that you do it, whether it's clean your room, whatever the situation is. And you say, how do you suggest that I ask you, or how do I approach you, or what can we do so that you can listen better? And see if your child has an answer. One answer, like one thing I could see is like, let's say the child's 5 and you give them 3 instructions. Hey, you better clean your room, whatever. Then that's a broad thing. Clean your room, put away those toys, and make sure you do your homework. Kids have a tendency to, especially younger kids, to not be able to follow multiple instructions. So, that's just the fact of their brain and how they are developing. So, you may just have to start with, one instruction at a time, or, use simpler words. But talking to your child about that and figuring out, I think, how they will learn best is something that you could try. So, Luke. Good to see you. What would be the best method or technique to deal with a 2-year-old screaming at the supermarket? Leave or take time out from the store or ignore it? Well, first, don't bring the child to the supermarket and expect that they're not going to have some issue. That's the first thing I would say. I think kids, expecting that a 2, 3, 4-year-old's going to sit at a restaurant for a half hour or do something. So I think there's a couple ways to do this. First is understanding why the child is getting upset. And a lot of times, a child that's 2 years old getting upset is only a couple of things. They're tired, they're hungry, they want attention, or they've got like a dirty diaper if they're still, not potty trained, or they have to go to the bathroom. So it's like, there's not a lot of reasons typically that, they're screaming and crying. So I think part of it, is figuring out what is going on with the child. And so you have to become more in tune and more informed about what's going on with that child. As an example, you are at the counter and they want a cookie or they want a lollipop and they grab for it and you say no, and they, throw a tantrum or they get upset and they're crying. Well, that's kind of normal. The fact is, they want a lollipop and you're not letting them have it. So you, as a parent, have to routinely do the same things. And here's the thing. It's not going to work right away. And as a 2-year-old, you'll probably go through numerous situations in which that's going to happen until they finally get it. But you might say something like, hey, it sounds like, be empathetic and say, hey, it sounds like, you're really upset about this. Is that what's going on? If your child's even verbal, at 2, they might just not be verbal. If they're not verbal, then you've got a different situation. You have to figure out what's going on. They just want something. They need attention. And a lot of times, especially at that age, like 2, 3, going to the supermarket can be as simple as like getting them a little cup full of like little treats or not even treats, but like Cheerios or Puffs or whatever it is. And you're just giving them something to do while they're there. That's typically an easy way to distract them. Distracting them with food or a toy or something that they can keep busy. And then the other is just making sure that you're giving them the attention. That can be something too, where, you're busy, you're talking, you're doing other things. You're just not really paying attention to your child. So part of it can be just, paying attention to your child, having a game and being fun and doing things, with them and having them help pick out stuff. Or 2's pretty young. That question, I would say probably 3 or 4 years old, it happens even more. So yeah, I think that would probably be, that would be pretty helpful. Guys, if you've got a question, throw it in the chat. Thank you, Luke. If you've got a question, throw it in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know where you're coming from. Also, if you want to support Dad University, daduniversity.com/support. And as I talk through, I'm going to need something to drink. But that's just water and ice. KTN, I don't know if I know saying it right. Choki. What would be the best way to get mentally ready to become a young dad? I'm really happy but nervous, 20 years old right now. The best way mentally. Well, I think what happens, let's call it anxiety or worry or whatever, a lot of that happens because we just don't know what the future holds. And so you're on a channel like this, that's a great step. And just becoming more comfortable and informed about what it is that you are entering and what's going to happen. And that oftentimes will, at least reduce the nerves. It reduces the anxiety of knowing what to expect. And then, of course, there's a couple things that I would suggest is knowing you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Understanding there's a couple topics that I would say that you might want to study prior to having the child, and that's patience. Learning to be more patient, not taking things personally, practicing gratitude. There's these different things that I have throughout the channel that, and I make these videos because these are all the things that really helped me. And part of that is, being a good father starts with being able to manage yourself, and it is understanding yourself. And so, yes, the techniques of knowing how to change a diaper and burp the child and play with the child and this, but that stuff, I will say, is very easy because you become an expert at it, after doing it a couple times. The hard stuff is all of the mental and, and sometimes physical requirements of having a child. And so those are things like patience and communication and listening. And, those are the things that I think, you'd want to work on as a soon-to-be father. And so that you are ready for that, when it comes your way. You're never completely ready. It's the same thing. I mean, you can read all the books and watch all my videos and do it. It's you'll become familiar with a lot of things. And a lot of people do give that feedback that they say, hey, gosh, after, watching that video, I feel much better. Or, hey, I've been, watching all your videos, and now I'm really, I'm a little bit better informed about what is going to happen. But a lot of that nervousness is just that worry of not knowing what to expect. So when you start to learn these things of oh, this is what's going to happen at the hospital, or this is what happens when we bring the baby home, or this is what happens when, I'm sitting there with the baby by myself and I don't know what to do. The one thing I will say, and keep this in mind, is that everything that you feel and experience and worry about and all those concerns, all of those are, one, valid, and two, millions of other people have experienced the exact same thing. You are not alone. You are not the only one who has been worried about being a dad. You are not the only person who has worried that you're not going to be, be able to do this or good enough at that, or, that you're going to bond with the baby, or that you're going to be able to take care of this, or that you're going to be able to pay for the child. We've all experienced it, And so that's an important thing to understand, is that you're not alone. You are not the only one who has experienced this, and you'll be good. So hope that helps. Hey, voiceover guy, good to see you. I wish we had voice, then I could hear your voiceovers. That would be cool. Because my throat's getting crazy. I don't know. Maybe I just talk too much. That would be awesome if Jordan, so my youngest gets a little sassy with her mother, but's usually pretty chill with me, almost like we have a rapport understanding of how do I have her listen and obey her mother and other close fam too. I don't know that there's not a tremendous amount that you can do, other than talking to your child about, that it's a similar way. What typically that means, not all the time, but typically that means is that your wife or her mother, sorry, I didn't mean that her mother deals with the child in a different way than you do. She may allow the sassiness to happen. She may be sassy herself. So the dynamics are different. And so typically when there is a parent that, the child acts differently among the two parents, it means that the two parents don't parent the same way. And so you might, there's a couple things. You can talk with the mother and get on the same page about how you want to parent, the respect level that they need to have. And so, but, you talking to your child and saying, you need to respect your mother because I said so. They need to respect their mother because they're supposed to. And the mother needs to command that respect and have those conversations. And when she's sassy, she knows that she can be sassy and probably get away with it. Whereas you probably didn't allow her to get sassy. Now, that's not all the time. The other time is just sometimes the personality conflicts or the personality dynamics when, one parent's a little bit more fun or a little bit more carefree, so I think you just need to get on the same page with the mother. And as far as other family, it's, another way that you could do it is make a rules chart. And we have one. If you look up on the YouTube channel, there's a family rules chart. And you make family rules. And one of them is like no sassiness, or speak nicely. Instead of like what not to do, you say what to do. But there's a video on that too. And I would make a chart that has rules, and that's a rules no matter what. Like, these are our family rules, no matter who you're talking to, friends, family, our internal, people, whatever. These are our rules. And we had this, and I created a sample chart that you can download. So maybe check that out too. Voiceover guy. Can I ask how to best discipline a 6-year-old? I've been using your tips on how to raise my little girl, which have been amazing. But if I have to tell her off or discuss something, she's not bothered. So a 6-year-old. So 6-year-olds are, they love to say no. They love to be defiant. They are pushing their boundaries. They are flexing their internal, fortitude. They're trying to see how much they can get away with. And so, a 6-year-old, you say because I have to tell her off. I'm not sure if I understand that, or discuss something, she's not bothered. Meaning, what I'm interpreting is like, you try to tell her she shouldn't be doing something and she doesn't really care, or she doesn't do it. So I think what you need, what you can do is you actually talk to her in a different way. So, based on her personality, she may not be a child who takes direction very well. Some children do. Some children, you can tell them something and they will do it. But, a strong-willed child who thinks that they, that's why I give so many different techniques. So one technique for a child like that is to give them multiple options, and, hey, here's the two options. Which option do you want? A lot of it is about them feeling in control, them feeling like they are the ones making the decisions, yet you are. So discipline, though, I'm curious what is it like specifically that you want to do with a 6-year-old? Because I talk about discipline, meaning like I use that terminology, but discipline really means to teach. So the truth is that many people who come to whether it's YouTube or whatever, they come with the idea that, discipline means like getting the child in trouble. I absolutely disagree with this, but some sort of physical punishment or timeouts or punishing the child in some way. And the truth is that like we just don't do that in my house. Like that's not what we do. And so when I began to think of myself as a coach rather than the teacher, discipline looked totally different. I began to, try to be empathetic towards my children and understand, okay, here's a situation that we're in. Like, what's going on? What are we, what's the situation? How are you feeling? What is it that we're trying to accomplish here? And you become a coach or a teacher, and that's really what discipline is. So I'd probably want a little bit more definition of what it means that you're trying to discipline the child, because for me, and some of the teachings that I have, and you can go back and look at some of those discipline videos, it is talking to your child, it's being calm, it's not taking things personally, because so much of how we approach them affects how we parent. And I was watching something the other day, a clip. I really liked it. So there's some of it I don't like, some of it I do. But I was watching some gentle parenting techniques, and some of it is really good. It's hard often in these certain situations to do it, so that just makes it difficult. But the child was getting really upset, was kicking the chair and getting upset. And so, instead of, quote, discipline, the parent asked, so what you sound, it looks like you're really upset right now. You're kicking the chair, you're getting upset. What is it that you're feeling? Are you feeling angry? And they start talking about like the child's emotions, and you're trying to understand what the child is feeling or going through, because they don't know how to express their emotions. And so discipline isn't about, hey, you're kicking my chair, so therefore you're grounded. Give me your iPad, you're not going to use it. Like, that doesn't teach the child anything. All it taught was that my parent is mean and took my stuff away. They're not even making the association that, oh, I probably shouldn't do that, and so therefore, because I want my iPad back. So, okay, so a little bit more definition here. No, not punishment. Been doing your options technique, which has been fantastic. She won't do homework and won't listen when we tell her it has to be done. Okay, thank you for the clarification. So this is another thing about teaching, and we've done this, and both of my children now are pretty good about it, is that we actually didn't force them to do their homework. So stick with me for a second. And I love people that are against this or don't agree with it. But that's fine, because that'll work for you, and what works for you is good. But this works for us. We had discussions about what it is that they want. In other words, do you want to do well in school? Is a grade important to you? What is it that you want from this, etc. And, when they're younger, they don't really know, but they kind of get shaped based on the fact that, what your attitudes are towards the homework and such. And so what we really tried to emphasize is say, listen, what is it that you want? And here's the thing. If they don't do their homework, the school will discipline them. And what you have to do, and this is really, really hard, is you have to remove your own ego and your own, what people might think and what that looks like. You have to remove yourself from that and allow them to get in trouble if they don't do their homework. The school will do that. Now, if the child is having learning problems or, which, that's a whole different situation. And there's a lot of fine lines here. I'm just talking in generalities. You talk with the teacher maybe and find out, are they having difficulties? And there's all kinds of stuff. But in general, the discussion is, what is it that you want? Do you want to get, is a grade important to you or not? Okay, well, if so, you do your homework. And what we quickly found was as we back off, and they're making their own decisions and they're becoming their own person, they get to decide what it is that's important. Because right now, you as parents are saying, hey, you got to do your homework. Get your homework done. You got to do your homework. Get your homework done. And a lot of that is the feeling because you're trying to, I'm assuming, but you're trying to teach them work ethic. You're trying to teach them that it's important. You're trying to teach them that hey, you need to do well here. Otherwise, you're not going to get in, where. But we all know that kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and even all the way up to whatever, it doesn't really matter. Now, if is learning important? Yes. Is them enjoying the learning process important? Yes. And so sometimes it's making it a little bit more fun. They may not have that nice, that good of a teacher, but I would try to look at the situation maybe a little bit differently and have a talk with your child about it and try to back off the hounding of the homework idea. Instead, sort of saying, it's up to them. If you decide to not do your homework, then I'm sure that the teacher will, and even have a discussion with the teacher beforehand so that they're prepared for it. And you say, hey, we talked about doing the homework. They refused to do their homework. We explained what happens when you don't do your homework, and the child is deciding to do that. And so we are going to see what those ramifications are. Now, if the teacher then says, okay, the child didn't do their homework, they have to sit in on recess or whatever, and the child doesn't care, well, then you may have a different problem on your hands. But for most kids, most well-adjusted, typical kids, you do that kind of situation and they're like, whoa, I don't want to feel like that. And there's a little bit of peer pressure because other kids are going out to recess and they don't get to go. You kind of see where the attitude change happens in doing that. So there's this fine line of supporting the child in, the direction that you want them to go versus the direction that you're wanting them to make that decision for themselves. And the hope is that they make that decision. If they don't, then you have to look at, is the homework really difficult? Could you help them along? Do that. But I can tell you, my wife and I did not help our children with their schoolwork unless they, really, really had an issue or whatever. And if they needed something and they came to us, then we would kind of support them through it, but that we still made them solve the problem or them do it. Both of them do their homework and we don't even ask. We don't even ask questions. Don't ask questions. I don't even know. My children are now in 7th and 9th grade. And unless I don't know, can't think of the times where they have come to us asking for questions or help and also forgot something or didn't do it. Now, they are now good students. And the way that I believe that they became good students is that we allowed them to decide that it was important to them, and they do it for themselves. They're not doing their homework for us. That's up to them. Like if they don't care, they don't want to, they don't get a good grade, like that's on them. It has nothing. I'm going to love them just the same. They're still my child. It doesn't matter. So, and this is a tough one. This is a tough one for a lot of people. It's the style we decided to, parent by, and I want to say luck. I feel like, we were taught this through like positive discipline and some of the other the other systems. It's worked out. My kids do their work. They have good work ethic. And I don't have to hound them. Maybe we have to hound them to go to sleep, because they want to stay up and they're younger and now they're teens and they want to, so we may have to say, hey, it's time, time to go to bed. But we don't have to yell really much anymore. It just, I'm a recovering yeller and I really don't like yelling anymore. I'm done with it. I don't like it. It's just not good for me. So I hope that helps. That's a long-winded question or long-winded answer to the question, but I hope that helps. Yeah. Hey, voiceover guy, email us your voiceovers. I'd be curious to hear what you do. That's a cool. I'd love to hear it. So anybody else have questions? You got questions? We've got answers. Throw a question into the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Also, let me know where you're from. We've got some people watching. If you want to support the channel, daduniversity.com/support. Become a member. That's probably the best way to support us, and you get something out of it. You get the courses, all the videos, the discussions, all of them, and that's a real good benefit for you. Or if you just want to provide a one-time donation, we accept that as well. And what it does is that helps us do these videos. Cameras, microphones, lighting, sound, editing, all kinds of stuff. Voiceover guy, thank you. Saw that come through. That was very nice of you. Very generous of you. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, the support just really, really helps us. And, this is a time commitment. For any of you who have made videos or make content, that it takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and we appreciate that. And I appreciate every single one of you. And voiceover guy, thank you very much. That was very, very nice of you. So how do I transition my 2-year-old from sleeping on the same bed to sleeping in his own room? You do it. There are, I'm not a sleep expert. There are some techniques out there. You could probably Google them, and there's some YouTube videos on it. I need to make a better video on that kind of transition. I get that question a lot. But part of it is just doing it maybe even in steps. This is kind of like anything. This is the way that I would approach it is, the first night that, you transition and say, okay, hey, we're going to fall asleep in your own bed. And, I want you to stay there for 20 minutes. And they stay there for 20 minutes. And then maybe they come back, and then maybe they stay there for 40 minutes and then they come back or something. I don't know if I have a foolproof way of that transition. Our children didn't do that, so I don't have firsthand experience. Maybe other people who, that's a good question for the group. If you transitioned your child from co-sleeping in your bed to their own room, what were some techniques that you can give to Jin Tian? That would be helpful, and we can kind of collectively help here, because I do want to help. I do want to help them. It's one of those areas, actually, a lot of people, I need to brush up and get better at it, but the sleeping thing was just interesting, because I don't want to talk about something that I didn't do firsthand, and we didn't. Our children slept in their own bed. Other than, shortly after, our second child was maybe co-sleeping just for a couple months while breastfeeding, but didn't necessarily do that. So, Andrew, Jason, hi Jason from LA. How do I get my almost 2-year-old to stop hitting? So, couple ways to do that. First is when they hit, you can actually, grab their hand, not too hard, but you grab your hand and you give them the alternative and say soft. So let's say your child is hitting, your shoulder or whatever, and you say soft, nice, soft, and you do that. You do that to the dog, nice, soft. You get a stuffed animal and you say nice, soft. And you give them the alternative. And so you can say no hitting, soft. And you repeat this over and over and over again. As the child gets a little bit older, if they're still doing it, you got to give them an alternative, because what the hitting is, the child doesn't know how to regulate their emotion. And so they are feeling an emotion, whatever it is. And their brain doesn't know, that this is an emotion called, anger, and I'm not supposed to do this. So what do I do when I feel this? And so you have to, so first you want to teach them that, the hitting isn't okay. And so when we, instead of hitting someone, we say soft or nice. You can, try different things. And it's not going to happen right away. And you do that. And then, the other is sometimes giving them an alternative. So instead of the hitting, let's say they're a really energetic, aggressive child, you could give them a towel to squeeze, and you say, when you're mad, you squeeze this, or, so I've seen that, or, even grabbing their shirt, and so when they get really upset, this is what we do. And so there's kind of this process of teaching your child about emotions. So it's not they're hitting and we just teach them, hey, boom, not to hit. But you're trying to teach your child about emotions and how we identify those emotions and then things that are okay to do with those emotions. Because you don't want your child suppressing their emotions. You want them to understand their emotions. And, hitting, sometimes it can be anger. Sometimes it could just be, I want attention, or I don't want you to use my stuff, or, don't touch my toy, or I want my toy, or there's all kinds of things. So the first line of defense is just teaching them to be soft. And, usually that's grabbing the hand and actually showing them, grabbing the hand and saying soft, or, never, I don't even know that I would do it on your face. You could, if they happen to hit you in the face, you do soft. And then you do the same thing to them, you do soft. And what you're going to want to make sure, obviously, is they're not witnessing anybody hitting anything. So, I had a question the other day, and the guy was talking about how he plays really rough with his son. It's a toddler. He puts him in a choke. He's a wrestling fan, and so they wrestle and they play pretty rough. The problem with that was that the child was then going to school and putting other children in a headlock. And so, you have to figure out a way to, and there was some great feedback, from the community. Another person what they had done is, they knew that the only time to wrestle was when you had a certain shirt on or a hat on or something like that. So when he was with his kid, he would have to wear that, or, have a certain situation, and then he was allowed to wrestle. So, hey, John, baby stroller, do we recommend? I'm looking for something to go off the road a bit. Ultra lightweight, easy to load, looks good. John, I actually don't have anything to recommend, but I will recommend, search out Dad Verb. He's really good. Dad Verb is on YouTube, and it's Andrew. He's great creator, very good. He does reviews of strollers and products and all of that, and he'd be a better person for that. I'm not involved in a lot of the products, so that's what I would recommend. Good dude. Jay Matthew, I've been watching for just over a year now. You gave me advice when my son was 2. Good to see you, Jay Matthew. Well, thank you. I appreciate that as well. Yes, voiceover guy, I do think you're right. Being a dad to a daughter, another, for a little bit older girls, I agree. That would be good. Cool. Andrew, the method does work when she gets rough with the cat. Yes. Yeah, that's a perfect example. The child is rough with the cat, and instead you just, soft, and you take their hand and you rub it very softly. So, hey, Jose, JD from North County. I'm assuming you mean San Diego, because that's where we are. So that's awesome if you are here. Oh, is it? Okay. Right on. Yeah, if you guys got any other questions, throw them in the chat. Always appreciate also too supporting the channel, daduniversity.com/support. If you become a member, that's the easiest way to support the channel. You can pay whatever feels good. That's the idea. Different people feel different. They get different value from this. And so we've got courses, videos, discussions, all that. You can pay what feels good. And then also, or you can just donate. That's an easy way too. Jay Matthew, do you have any advice? Do you have any advice for not getting annoyed so easily? It's hard for me to ask that. Yeah, it's funny. I was actually just talking to my daughter about this. She has my trait. Part of it is figuring out why things annoy you. And, we have a tendency to blame our children. Say, stop doing that. That's annoying me. Or stop doing that. This, that's, you're getting on my nerves or whatever. And you think about, like, for somebody else, that wouldn't annoy them. So what is it? It's like you have to take the responsibility that, first, it's annoying you. So it's your problem. It's not the child's problem. And so there's a couple of things you have to look at. One, on the surface. These are surface things. Are you stressed out, overworked, underpaid? All those things. Getting enough sleep, taking care of yourself. Like, when you're a new dad, especially, or soon-to-be dad, new dad, even, younger child dad, it's just hard. You've got the stress of the family, the stress of work, your friends, your extended family, community, whatever, all these things. And you're trying to balance or have these all work in harmony. And we have a course called Finding Work-Life Harmony because of how difficult this is. And so you have to kind of take a step back and look at, what is your current state? Because if you're not okay, you're not going to be able to be okay for your children. And here's the thing, like, taking time for yourself is not selfish when you know that it allows you to be there and be okay for others. And so I'll give you an example. I work out every day, pretty much every day. I do yoga multiple times a week. I meditate almost every day. Not quite every day, but almost. I eat really well. I am constantly learning of new ways to be more patient, not get annoyed, all these things. I'm a very, very high-strung individual. You can ask those that work with me. They will confirm it. And so, as a result of that and being self-aware, I need to do things. I need to take action so that I will be less annoyed. The other part of it is being very aware that this is my problem and I have to accept it. So I was trying to teach my daughter this because she was getting annoyed at something. She was with a group of friends and she was getting really annoyed, and she came over to me and I could just see that she was upset. She's like, I'm just getting so annoyed. And so we had a talk afterwards, after the friends were gone or such, about, what is it? And she's just like, I don't know. I feel like my body, we were going through like the physical aspects of it. And so part of it is like knowing that it is your own issue and not blaming it on somebody else, because her first explanation was, well, this person is so annoying. No, it's this person's doing something, but there's a reason that it bothers you. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, is like taking ownership and accepting the fact that, it's your issue. And so then you have to look at, your physicality, your mental. And for me, meditation has been just amazing. And so I definitely would recommend that. And, hopefully that's that thing. And then for kids, dealing with your kids, The biggest one is not taking it personally. That was one of the things for me that, definitely made me feel less annoyed. Voiceover, can I ask, what's your take on balancing treats for kids? I prefer experiences rather than buying things. Do you use reward charts? Any tips? No, I do not like reward charts. I don't use them. I don't agree with them. I don't think that rewarding children with anything is a good idea. And the reason being is that what happens when there is no reward? They're not going to do it. So the way to motivate children is internally by, I say praise is okay. I mean, but the praise it's really not the praise coming from you or the external thing that you're giving them. Instead, it's like, look what you did, or you accomplished that. Like, how does that feel? My children will get a good grade or they'll say something and I'll say, okay, so how do you feel about that? Like, I don't care. I'm not saying good job, awesome. Like, how do they feel about it? Like, whether you get a good grade or bad grade, I still love you. So it's more important about how they feel about it. And I'm not the one who did the work. I'm not the one who accomplished something. Who cares? They don't need my approval. So you kind of want to be conscious of these things that we say to our children. Like, I have a big one. I have a whole video about it, about like saying that you're so proud of them. It doesn't help them. What helps them saying you should be proud of yourself. Look what you just did. You just climbed up that ladder, or you just got an A on your quiz. You should be proud of yourself. You worked hard for that. It's what they did. It's the internal motivation. So no, hate reward charts. I think they're ridiculous. I know that there's some behavior specialists who use them, and I just disagree with them. I don't think that it's a, I mean, hey, here's the thing. The caveat to that is when a child is really, really small, and their brains haven't developed yet, like, I think maybe using a treat, to potty train a child might be, worthy. I remember my, giving them an M&M because they went on the potty, like, okay, that might be something that you can do. But I just think, rewarding kids for behavior or rewarding things, it sets up kids to, always want rewards. And so I think you have to be... Now, there's competition rewards, or, we will do things like, if, you're able to do this, what should we, what do you think you should have, or something like that. Like, there's times where we make things fun or we make things rewarding, but like grades, things like that, no. The only thing that they may get is, like, if they clean up something, they may get something that looks like, wow, I really appreciate you doing that. That was really helpful. My son cleaned up the kitchen the other day, and I just gave him a hug and said, hey, I really appreciate you helping out and cleaning the kitchen. Now, that's considered praise, then so be it. But it's appreciation. All right. Let's see.
Don't forget, there's a game too if you want.
Oh, there's a game. Do we want to do a game? Although it looks like I'm...
Unless you're busy.
All right. Let's see. Yeah, voiceover guy. Appreciate that. Renee, have you seen The Parent Test on ABC? No, I haven't. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it, so I don't know that I can comment on it. But, there are certainly different types of parenting techniques. A lot of the techniques that I use and subscribe to could be considered like in the realm of, positive parenting. It's, based, and I have this in my courses. It's based on Rudolf Dreikurs and some other psychologists, and it's like we do, no reward, no punishment, a lot of communication. I use coaching instead of trying to be a parent and discipline. There's a lot of those kinds of things. I think that there's some great parenting techniques that have been created. Like I said, gentle parenting is one that's big on TikTok, and showing these. And I think some of the techniques are great. I also think that there are some situations that are just unrealistic for that. I got blasted on TikTok for some of my own opinions, by that. It's funny. I gave some of my own advice and got blasted by some gentle parenting folks because I had mentioned about ignoring the behavior. I'm not talking about neglecting and ignoring our children, but there was a situation which, okay, I understand that, your child is kicking the chair, instead of my advice at the time would have been, hey, ignore the behavior and it will subside and then you can talk about it later, because a child in the middle of chaos is not listening, and you have to sort of get them to calm down. So I had mentioned some things and I just got fireballed and they all came to my website and told me what a horrible person I am. So, which is funny for people that practice gentle parenting, but hey, lesson learned. It's funny. People, they're okay. It's okay to be gentle to children, but to other adults, make sure that you're really mean and vile and call them stuff. So it's funny. Anybody else? As I went on my rant. Any other questions? Got a couple minutes here as we close out. Wow, it's almost an hour already. Time flies when you're having fun. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. Also, support the channel. Voiceover guy, thank you again. I don't typically do one-on-one sessions. I would say send an email to info@daduniversity.com and just say you're the voiceover guy, and that'll be forwarded to me, and we'll see what we can do. But other than that, if you want to support the channel, daduniversity.com/support, as well as you can just make a donation, which is always appreciated. Got microphones, computers, recording, editing, video, and the amount of time that that takes to do this stuff is a lot. You see all those cool graphics that are on the page. Well, Jay Matthew, you are welcome. I appreciate also everybody coming to this. We are likely going to be doing this at the same time each week. We'll do it on other occasions as well, but Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Pacific. So if you enjoyed this chat, be sure to be back here next week, and we will try to do the same thing. We have been doing a lot of different chats just to test different times and different technology and different things that we're doing. But I want to keep this as a regular show, and hopefully you guys can join us. Be regulars. We'll see you as well. I appreciate all of you. And as everyone thanks me, I'll thank you guys too, because I can't do this without support. Subscribe to the channel is also a great way. That's free. Subscribing to the channel helps us in Google or in YouTube's algorithm. And it's such a small percentage of people who are subscribed to the channel who actually watch the videos. But the subscribe really, really helps us, because that pushes the video more. That when we launch videos, the more subscribers you get, the more people see it, and it just helps. So with that, I want to say thank you to everybody, and we will see you next time. Take care, everybody.